What up, what up, what up? This man Tony Wiggins here with another edition of Locked On Jaguars. It's the Thursday crossover edition. This is a weird one, though, because normally I'm talking to this guy on Wednesday, but it's my homeboy, James Rapien with Locked On Bengals. He's going to join us today to do a show here about Jacksonville going to Cincinnati on Thursday night. Tonight, in fact. What's going on, James?
What's going on, Tony? Yeah, this is weird. Normally we're doing Locked On NFL and talking all national storylines. Now our team's under the national spotlight in Cincinnati. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I'm excited too, man. Storylines a little bit different coming in. You know, the talk this week for the Jaguars obviously was the trade. They traded CJ Henderson away for a tight end that they could have signed in free agency, but that's another story. And then for a third round pick, weird, man, that they're getting rid of fundamental players here. While you guys seem to have hit on a few things, and I think you guys are where we were last year, in fact, but you guys have now seemed to turn the corner, and y'all won at Pittsburgh, and that's something you don't do.
No, they hadn't won it in Pittsburgh since 2015 when they finished 12-4 and, you know, were one of the best teams in the NFL. Andy Dalton, it seems like it was a decade ago, but Andy Dalton was an MVP candidate that year until he broke his thumb, you know, and it's crazy to think about that it's been that long, but yeah, they went into Pittsburgh and they controlled the game from start to finish. And, you know, it gives Bengals fans at least some hope that Zach Taylor is the man to turn things around. And I think they need to continue that. Tonight they have to handle business against the Jags, because if you go to Pittsburgh and you win, and then 4 days later, they're introducing their Ring of Honor on Thursday night, by the way, their first Ring of Honor. This is the inaugural class. So Anthony Munoz is going in, Paul Brown is going in, wow. Ken Anderson is going in, and Ken Riley. So it's a big night for the Bengals. So if you do that 4 days after beating Pittsburgh, that's awesome, right? National spotlight. But if you lose, all that momentum is going to stop. So look, I get it. The spread on Bet Online was like 7.5 all week. I understand that, but they're going to have to go out there and actually perform it and beat a Jags team that, call me crazy, I think they're going to be hungry, just because no one likes being 0-3. And you face a hungry team, you can always get beat.
Yeah, man, you're right. They are going to be hungry, and we'll get into that. We like to first thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Bengals and making us your first listen of the day. And remember, this is free on all platforms, and you can check us out on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button also. So what we're going to do here, we're going to get into a few things. The first segment, I'm going to play host and allow James to do a Q&A with me about the Jaguars and what's going on. And then in segment 3, that would actually be segment 2. And then segment 3, what I will do then is flip it around. And I'm going to ask James some questions. But right now, let's not bury the lead. Look, man, you guys were a new team last year, and we're pretty much in the same situation we're in now. I talked about this on Tuesday on my show, that you had a first-year quarterback who some may still consider a first-year quarterback because he didn't play very much last year and he got hurt. You got rookie wide receivers, young offensive line that still has to prove itself, new defense under new leadership. And so the question is, why are you guys 2-0 and why are we 0-3 and still looking for an identity when we're not really far apart when you think of the chronological years of the players? You know, the hardest thing for me is trying to figure out why the Jaguars are having such a hard time finding an identity, and you guys have found your footing.
I think to a degree, right? And that's the thing, is we'll learn more on Thursday night, because I thought they should be 3-0. If they were going to handle Pittsburgh the way they did and beat Minnesota at home, and there's no reason why they shouldn't have beat Chicago on the road. And that was a game I said they need to win this to show that they can win winnable games on the road. And they didn't do it. So I still think there's some questions there. Now, when you compare the Bengals to the Jags, the reason to me there's a big difference, and this does matter, even though people think Urban Meyer should have flipped the script on day one, at least nationally. I don't know what the talk is in Jacksonville, right, but nationally he's taken plenty of criticism, right? The difference is Zach Taylor is in his 3rd season, and that part of it matters a ton. He's completely flipped this roster slowly but surely. And he entered this year with a 6-25-1 record. So things look good now. You know, 2-1. The Bengals were 18th, I think, in Locked On's power rankings this week. Like, people are feeling good in Cincinnati but there's still a lot of question marks. And, you have a head coach that's won 2 games on the road, a coach that just won his first divisional road game and has 8 wins in 2 years and 3 games. So things seem to be trending in the right direction, but the stats are still bad overall when you look at wins and losses. So they need to continue to trend that way for me to completely buy in. But I agree, they're in different spots. And I think a big reason why is because Taylor has been here now for a 3rd year and has been able to get his guys in, bring his roster in. And while it's a young team, they've also added a bunch of veterans in free agency that were ready to hit the ground running and are entering their prime.
You mean the people up there are actually talking about the NFL team instead of the college team in the city, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually think in, Notre Dame, UC, the Bearcats, that they're going to take on the Fighting Irish in South Bend. That's a big topic. Bengals are bigger right now. And, that's that could change with a loss on Thursday for the Bengals and then a win over Notre Dame on Saturday. And I'm a UC alum, University of Cincinnati, baby. So I hope Desmond Ridder and the Bearcats go wild in South Bend on Brian Kelly and company.
No doubt. So what we're going to do here in segment 2 when we come up, I'm going to play host and I'm going to say, James, go. You find out and you tell me exactly what it is you want to ask me about the Jacksonville Jaguars so all of your Bengals fans can hear our spill from my perspective. And then what I'll do is I'll return the favor for my Jaguar fans, especially a group that I know is traveling up there to come to the game. And so just to give them a little bit of information on what they should look for as we always do this here on our crossover edition on Thursday. And once again, we thank you here from Locked On Bengals and Locked On Jaguars for making us your first listen. I got to let you guys know, though, about Get Upside. Now, if you are Bengals fans or Jaguars fans, you have one thing in common. You want to save money on gas, right? Everyone does. And we have listeners saving up to 25 cents to 50 cents a gallon of gas every time they fill up just because they downloaded the app Get Upside in the App Store or on Google Play. You can do the same thing and use the promo code Touchdown. Now, I'm going to tell you how you can save your money. Once you do that, you'll get a bonus of 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. And that's up to 50% cash back. 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Now you're going to save 25% just because you have the app. Then you're going to save up to another 25 cents per gallon when you use the promo code Touchdown. Now, if you think it's a joke, it's not, because I got people that's doing it already. And folks who drive a lot are actually making as much as $200 or $300 a month cash back. And guess what? It goes right into your account. All you got to do is cash out anytime you want to your account, PayPal, or to an e-gift card or an Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use your promo code Touchdown. Start saving money right now at the pump. 25 cents a gallon, up to 50 cents a gallon when you use the promo code Touchdown.
Let's keep things rolling on a crossover Thursday, a Thursday night edition as the Cincinnati Bengals host the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's Tony Wiggins. I'm James Rapien. And let's focus on the Jags, Tony, because to me, I look at it and Trevor Lawrence, I think he's a really, really good quarterback already. And I'm sure he's making some rookie mistakes, but DJ Chark put on a show for Bengals fans last year at Paul Brown Stadium. And I know what he's capable of because, well, I play fantasy football. So a lot of our listeners probably do too. And then you got Marvin Jones, who Bengals fans certainly know about. And I think he's still balling. James Robinson, fantasy football wise, he got going last week, by the way. So my fantasy team thanks the Jags for that. To me, this offense should be pretty good. How have they been so far this season, and why do I feel like they've struggled more than they've had success?
Identity and trying to figure it out. I do think with Urban Meyer coming into the NFL, you could go around the NFL training camps every year and there's a schedule. You go to Bengals, I go to Jaguars. But then when you see other guys that talk about it, that cover the team for a living, they talk about the schedule, like where everyone is and what everyone's doing. There's a lot of time spent this summer on competition days and quarterback competitions. And I think it was Urban Meyer taking the approach where he's going to get to know every single player on the roster. Loves players. Comes from college where they got about 100 of them running around, right? In the NFL, you can't do that. When you're the guy who sets the table to navigate the ship, You're responsible for personnel. You make picks. You make players. It's not subjective anymore. Because trying to be subjective when you have those roles is also like having plausible deniability, right? When you choose a guy, number one, that's your guy. Yeah, he's not in a competition. The only competition is you're going to say, okay, well, let me see if he's ready to go. And if he's not, I don't want to put him in a position to hurt himself. But the guy you were going to have playing in front of him in Gardner Minshew, he actually started as a rookie. So it's almost as if you can't say the guy's a generational talent and he's the reason you took the job, and now you got him in a competition with a guy who you traded away who wasn't even active for the Eagles last night. That doesn't make sense. It's just pretty much a waste of time. Having Tim Tebow come in here because he was the greatest competitor you ever knew, but you're a stickler for guys who buy in, and you're a stickler for guys who put the work in, but you go get a guy to try to make him play tight end who hasn't played football for 8 years, and he never played that position before. All of these things to me are oxymoronic in nature. You just can't do that. There is no quarterback competition when you draft a guy number 1 overall, and I think it was just a lot of wasted time. And I think he's been out coached. He's been out coached because the team has been out prepared and they don't have an identity. And you see it. Now you see it getting progressively better, but as he gets better, so is everybody else. And he's always going to be a step behind. And I think it's because of the approach he took in training camp.
Yeah, to me, that's crazy to think about. Because if you just put, Zach Taylor and Urban Meyer on paper, I'm taking Urban Meyer 10 times out of 10 from a football coach standpoint. Experience-wise, how many rings he's got, success he's got. And again, I look at that offense and I'm like, man, they should be pretty good. They should. So where's the hope right now in Jacksonville then? Because they're 0-3. You just said it. Urban's behind. He was adjusting to life in the NFL, which, again, some of this stuff, a simple call or two to some head coaches that I knew he was aware of and has relationships with in the league, probably could have solved that. So what's next for this team in finding that identity and trying to establish itself as it moves forward?
I think he realizes now that, and he should have realized this before, Vic Fangio says that after game 2 when they lost to the Broncos, that Urban came up to him after the game and shook his hand, and he goes, it's like playing Alabama every week. And the funny thing is he'd only played the Texans and the Broncos. So I'm thinking, like, you think that's like playing Alabama every week? Wait till you have to line up against the Rams later on this year. Or what if you had to line up against Tampa Bay or the Chiefs or the Cowboys or something? And we'll talk about that too at some point, Jamie. But what if you got to line up against Myles Garrett every week? You ask Justin Fields what he thinks about how slow the NFL is right now. So it's like, you ain't seen Alabama yet, bro. You haven't. So I don't know if he thought, or if he's just such used to the talent level being different, that he's going to outwork, out-condition, out-performance program. These guys been lifting weights too. These other teams have millions of dollars, and these other guys have doctors and trainers too. You're not going to outdo anybody that way in the NFL. You know how you outdo anybody in the NFL? You out-draft them, you out-talent them, and you out-motivate them. That's it. It's not all of this other stuff that where you think you can be this great leader of men. In the NFL, the great leaders of men they don't lead out front. Like, they find a way to step back and just sort of act like a wizard and make everybody come together. You know what I'm saying? Because you got guys that are grown men and they have to be themselves. So I just think he's slowly going to learn that that's not it. You ain't tricking nobody. You're not going to sit here and run a spread offense and run everybody one way. They did a play the other day, man, that is driving everyone around here crazy, where they had momentum and they were running the ball. And I said, okay, it's time. Now that you got Arizona hurting, you can take a shot. They try to flea flicker from inside of their own territory. So in that situation, usually coaches will shy away from it because you're worried about the ball handling issue within your own red zone. No problem. The pitch was perfect. The play was perfect. Budda Baker bit. DJ Chark was 10 yards behind him. The problem is J.J. Watt was right in the face of Trevor Lawrence, and he threw a pass to the outside that was picked off by Byron Murphy in return for a touchdown. Well, the reason why he didn't go deep is because the offensive lineman, if you watch the tape, did a 360 pirouette It came out in the press conference later on because Jawan Taylor, the other offensive lineman, was asked about it, and he said, "Oh no, he was supposed to do that. It's called the whirly bird, and it helps sell the fact that the opposite side, the run, went the other way." You did a whirly bird in front of a first ballot Hall of Famer who goes, "Yeah, whirly bird this," and I ain't buying it. And he was right in Trevor's chin, and it was a pick six. And they're blaming the coaching staff, they're blaming everybody. I blamed the offensive lineman at first until the other offensive lineman told me, "No, that's what he was coached to do." See, that stuff doesn't work. You ain't whirly birding JJ Watt. No, you need to. You can kill that. You know what I'm saying?
This isn't Middle Tennessee State week one
sir.
at the shoe.
No, sir. I thought the kid just lost his way or something, and I was, I'm sorry, he just ain't that good. Until I found out that's what they told him to do. So that's the kind of stuff when you ask in a nutshell, get rid of whirly birds and that doesn't work. Just block him straight up and make the dude bite and throw the ball. That's it. You get too cute.
Let me ask you this then. Because we could get into position groups and deep dive into the defense and offense. It's a short week, and I don't know how much anyone wants to necessarily hear that. But paint the scenario where Urban Meyer on a short week. They did have a 19-11 lead over Arizona at one point before the whirly bird and the complete breakdown that happened in week 3. How does this Jaguars team beat a Bengals team that's at home, that has momentum? By the way, I do think, and we could talk about this if you want, but I think Joe Burrow is going to be a little extra motivated to go up against Urban Meyer, even though he's not going to admit it. Anyways, how do they beat the Bengals? Paint that scenario for me.
I'm glad you mentioned Urban Meyer and Joe Burrow because Urban actually called Joe Burrow and asked for his advice, according to him, about how he should proceed with Trevor. So, how can the Jaguars beat the Bengals? The Bengals have to commit turnovers. The Bengals have to come in and do what Arizona did and underestimate the fact that what I just said, that these are NFL players on the other side of the field, guys that are hungry. The Jaguars really do a good job of stopping the run. So if you think you're just going to take Joe Mixon and running them up, that ain't going to happen. They're very good in their front seven. They're solid. They're not great, but they're solid in their front seven. And then they tackle real well in the open field. So the Bengals are going to have to be patient, and then the Bengals, if they're going to beat if the Bengals get impatient and they're not able to hit big plays, you're playing right into Jacksonville. And Jacksonville really they can run the football, so it's going to test the Bengals front seven because these guys are getting 5 and 6 yards a carry. So the stats say that they shouldn't be losing these games. But yeah, I think the Jaguars are going to slowly get better, and I think if the Bengals are overconfident, the Jaguars can sneak up on them.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's the thing. That's the scenario for me that we've talked about this week on Locked On Bengals is handling success, right? And I get it. They're only 2-1, but this is a young team, and it's hard to me coming off of that emotional win in Pittsburgh. You're like, oh, it's the 0-3 Jags. And maybe that comes from Burrow saying, no, let's keep our head in it so I can stick it to the guy that wouldn't play me at Ohio State. And then the guy that I beat in the national championship game a few years ago, show that I'm better than him. Because I think most evaluators have Trevor Lawrence ahead of Burrow as far as a prospect is concerned. But, that's neither here nor there. But either way, we'll have you covered. And on the other side, we're going to flip it. You're going to ask me questions about the Bengals. And who knows if they're for real or not. So we'll do that next. But first, a word from Rock Auto. And rockauto.com is something I've used for quite some time now. If you do any of your do-it-yourself auto maintenance, and it can be something as simple as an air filter, engine air filter, the air filter that goes in the glove compartment of your car where, dealers are going to charge you hundreds of dollars, and you can do it for $15, $20 on your own. And it just takes a couple of minutes with a quick YouTube video. By the way, you should subscribe on YouTube to Locked On Bengals and Locked On Jags. RockAuto.com, though, is the place to go for that because you're going to save money, 30, 50, even 100% when you go to rockauto.com versus the big box store or the dealership where, let's be honest, they got to make money too. Rock Auto does it, and they save you money. They've been in the business for more than 2 decades, so check them out at rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Be sure to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
And as you guys prepare to watch these games this weekend, if you're the betting person, there's nothing wrong with being right, but something's better than being right. It's about being right and getting paid to be right. And you can do that by going to Bet Online, which is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With new and updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, betonline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. And with all of these games ending this weekend on walk-offs and field goals that didn't make it, this is a good time for you to put something together, man, and maybe take some of these underdogs with these points. So you need to head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use promo code Locked On. That's right. Football, college, pro, all of that. Cincinnati's involved in some big games this weekend. Get your Cincinnati two-team parlay if that's what you need to do. But the fastest and easiest way to do that is at BetOnline, which is your favorite for all of your betting needs. BetOnline is your online sportsbook experts, and don't forget to use the promo code, which is Locked On. And you guys are Locked On Bengals, and Locked On Cincinnati right now. Locked On Jaguars, that is. And, we're getting ready to have this game Thursday. It's just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of work for us. Obviously, these night games have us up very, very late, but nobody's complaining. I need to ask you something, and it's personal, and you know that because when we're on Locked On NFL, this was my dude, man. I heard all summer about Jamar Chase not doing this and not doing that, and I said, James, I'm telling you, he's one of the best I've ever seen at that position. I'm a Jaguar fan, and I'm going to support my team and support my city, but I also got to toot my own horn when I'm right. That boy is playing lights out, isn't he?
He's been great. I mean, exceeded expectations. The Bengals would say, no, that's what we expected out of him. But I don't think anyone could have anticipated 4 touchdowns in 3 games, 3 30-plus yard touchdowns. His first NFL touchdown, 50 yards. Then he has a 42-yarder. Then he has a 34-yarder in Pittsburgh. And just the chemistry with him and Burrow is clearly there. And he did have drops, in the preseason, had drops throughout training camp. And I think, look, he hadn't played a real game, a game that mattered since the national championship game that I referred to earlier against Clemson. That was way back in January 2020. So then you fast forward 18 months and you expect him to hit the ground running. I just think he was adjusting to life in the NFL. He was adjusting to the speed of the game and everything that comes with that. Plus, the Bengals are moving him all over. It's not like they spoon-fed him the playbook. He lines up in the slot. He lines up on one side. He lines up on the other. And that one shows the coaching staff how confident they are in him from a mental standpoint for him to be able to digest all that. But it just took him a little time. And you're seeing how much of a game changer he is. And they still haven't got him involved in the underneath stuff as much as they wanted to yet. He hasn't had like a 10 reception game. He has 11 receptions on the year, averaging 20 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns, like I mentioned. So he's been an absolute game changer. He's on pace for 24 touchdowns this year. I don't think that's going to happen necessarily, right. But obviously the Bengals got it right when they picked Jamar Chase with the 5th pick.
So all the talk about Penei Sewell, who I'm not thinking about how he's playing up there, but how has the offensive line done? Because contrary to what people think, the Bengals actually did make a tremendous amount of additions to the offensive line. So how's your 2nd round pick, Jackson Carman, playing? And the rest of those guys. The reason why I mentioned Jackson Carman, by the way, is because the Jaguars had a 2nd round pick too. The kid hasn't been active. They haven't activated him. Wow. So, I'm sitting there like, and I'm not blaming on him. I'm not knocking the kid. I'm just saying, like, how do you, if you're a 1-15 team, how do you draft a guy 45th overall and he's not even active? So how's your 2nd round pick playing at offensive line? Yeah,
Jackson Carman, the 46th overall pick, had been active all 3 weeks, but didn't really play much until week 3. Xavier Su'a-Filo went down at right guard with a knee injury, and Jackson Carman got the start. And I thought he played really well. You start in Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, crazy environment, your first NFL start. And I'm like, all right, just don't kill the offense, right? Just don't make it crumble. And he had some good blocks. Jamar Chase's 2nd touchdown, he handled a stunt from Melvin Ingram, where Ingram, you're thinking, oh, he's going to get the rookie. And he just stonewalled him and kept him in place and gave Burrow time to get to his 5th read, Tony. Chase was the 5th read on that play, which kind of weird that Chase is ever a fifth read on any play, but he was, and Burrow was able to scan the field and find Chase, who beat Joe Hayden. So look, I think he's there's certainly some upside there. There's potential, still a lot to prove. As far as the other offensive linemen go, Trey Hopkins, the starting center, looks more like himself. He was coming off of a torn ACL. He tore it in January. In week 1, he got beat a couple of times, but he's looked better over the past couple of weeks. Quentin Spain, probably a league average starting guard at left guard, but he's been fine. Hasn't been great, but is certainly serviceable. And then the 2 tackles, I actually think this is the strength of the Bengals offensive line, and that's why they didn't feel obligated to pick Penei Sewell, is because they have Jonah Williams, the 11th overall pick in the 2019 draft. He looks good so far, certainly developing. He entered the season having only played 10 games. So I don't think he's considered a rookie now. It's his 3rd year, but he's had some injury issues. So as long as he can stay healthy, they're confident in him. And then Riley Reef, the biggest offseason addition. He's played great. They run the ball behind him the most. I think Joe Mixon's averaging 4.6 yards per carry behind that right side, which, if Jackson Carman could keep it up, you look for that to continue. So I think this offensive line much improved, but we'll see if they can continue what they did last week against the Steelers, where they didn't allow a sack. The first couple of weeks, Burrow wasn't as elusive, and they were giving up some pressures, and they had some pressure breakdowns that weren't necessarily the offensive line's fault. They cleaned those up in week 3. We'll see if they can keep that going on Thursday night against the Jags.
All right, it's James Rapien from Locked On Bengals, Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jags. We both thank you for making us your first listen. Last thing I'm going to ask you is this. We're not going to talk about Joe Burrow, his health, because obviously he's healthy. So what do the Bengals have to do? What would it take for the Bengals to come out here and allow the Jaguars to sneak one up in Cincinnati?
Yeah. Well, slow start, right? The stadium's going to be electric. The Bengals introducing the Ring of Honor, like I mentioned. They're coming off of a huge win in Pittsburgh. The city is ecstatic. They're so excited about this team, and they have hope, right? And Burrow's flash. Jamar Chase looks like a future Pro Bowler at minimum right now, and the defense has played great. But if you don't jump on the Jags early, and you let Marvin Jones score a touchdown, or you let James Robinson establish himself on the ground, and you make things a little bit easier on Trevor Lawrence early, I think you're giving a team that's 0-3 some hope. And call me crazy, but again, when I look at the Jags on paper, I think they can score. Couple that with some injuries to the Bengals secondary. Trey Waynes could play this week. I think he's probably going to play. Hasn't played a game for the Bengals. Missed 19 straight games after signing in free agency in 2020. Torn pec last year, missed all the entire year. Hamstring is sidelined him the first 3 weeks this year. He's going to go up against DJ Chark or Marvin Jones. Well, I would test him early. I would test whoever's filling in for Chidobe Awuzie, who I don't expect to play. He injured his groin on Sunday. And so you will see. I think Jesse Bates is going to play, but he's dealing with a neck issue. So we'll see as we record this. I lean towards him playing. But the point is, if you don't jump on them early and you have some injuries to the secondary, and Trevor Lawrence gets into a little bit of a rhythm, that could be the disaster part of it. And then on the flip side, on offense, can you just keep Joe Burrow upright? Because they have the weapons. Even if T. Higgins doesn't play, they have the weapons. We know about Jamar. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Jags double-team Jamar Chase this week. Okay, well, you got Tyler Boyd. You can use some of these other weapons, these other receivers. Look for an Auden Tate, Mike Thomas to fill in if T. Higgins doesn't play. So they got to get off to a fast start. I think that's really the key. If they get off to a slow start, then the Jags could take advantage, and it'll certainly be interesting. So I'm excited. I think this game could be close.
Sometimes you look at the schedule and you go, I know there are fans that's not Bengals and Jaguar fans are wanting. Do I want to see that? And now hopefully we've laid it out to them enough that they understand, yeah, you kind of do want to see this game. But we love being your first listen here on Locked On Jags and Locked On Bengals. Let me tell you about your second listen. It needs to be Locked On Bets, especially if you want to get paid and make you some money. Before you go to Bet Online and make your bet, listen to the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and expert Lee Sterling as they break it down for you and give you all of the tips that you might need in order to be successful on your wager. You can subscribe to that on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast and make it your second listen after Locked On Bengals and Locked On Jaguars every single day. And it's free on all platforms as well. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page for both James and I. And Jake Liskow on Locked On Bengals and Locked On Jags. I'm going to say what I always say, man. You guys don't ever hear me if you're a Locked On Bengals fan, unless you listen to the national show. Take care of each other. I say that respectively from both James and I. Have a good game, and we will see you Friday on our respective shows. Take care, and thanks for listening to The Crossover.